NFL free agency is already busting my brain. We've got teams backing out of trades. We've got centers getting paid $27 million annually, and both involve the same team. So what we're going to do today is grade every free agent signing from the AFC and name its impact on the 2026 fantasy football season. Let's just go ahead and start with the first free agent signing that just melted everybody's faces off, and that was Kenneth Walker landing with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-year, $45 million contract, just under $28 million of that guaranteed. Fellas, this was a very, very easy one to grade. Ty, you and I gave this an A+. Kansas City needed a pop in their run game. Lord knows Isaiah Pacheco couldn't give that to them, and Lord knows Kareem Hunt couldn't give that to them either. Cameron, is there anything in particular for you? You've still got this at an A, right? This isn't to criticize your grade by any means, but is there anything that keeps you from an A+ on this? Because to me, this is like, yeah, you're the Kansas City Chiefs. This makes 100% sense. This automatically turns your run game around.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. My only thing is I just don't think he's going to have the receiving game work. Like, I think we're going to want him to be a top 5 back. I just think he's still going to be a guy around 45, 50 receptions, which is awesome. Like, he's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be what we've been hoping. It's just like, for me, like an A+ would be a guy who would turn into Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs. I just don't think he's going to be that. That's the only reason I gave it that, which is nitpicking. I understand. You can say whatever you want. This is like a 98% A instead of 100% A+. So, get upset at me if you want. That's the only reason. But yeah, he's a dynamic player going to be paired up with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That usually works out pretty well.
That's a pretty well-worded response for someone that was a former teacher that doesn't believe that A+ are a thing, that it's only A's and that's the highest grade that you could get. Yes. That's a pretty well
you guys
did good response.
Change the scale on me here, so I mean, it is whatever.
Ty, I noticed when Cam was talking, you didn't give an eye roll, but it was kind of when we talked about the receiving game, you kind of shrugged your shoulders a little bit at him. Are you concerned about the receiving game here with Kenneth Walker, or are you confident that hovers around where we saw it in Seattle?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's just a slight uptick in receiving work, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's the same. I don't think if we don't get the pop in the receiving game, that's not going to leave such a sour taste in our mouth, just because we know that Kenneth Walker is now getting the entire backfield here in Kansas City where he can still make explosive plays, and he's going to find way more scoring opportunities than Seattle ever gave him. So it all kind of balances out at the very end. And we know that with where Kansas City is going now, bringing back Eric Bieniemy, bringing back the guy that we're going to talk about next, actually, things are kind of looking like Kansas City's actually going to they're at least going to try to get back to where they were before they traded Tyreek Hill to a certain extent.
I think.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he's going to fall somewhere between Kyren Williams and James Cook was last season, is kind of where I see him going in the range of fantasy players. I lean more towards Kyren Williams, which is still, running back 8, averaging 14.5 PPR fantasy points or 14 standard PPR or standard points a game. So I'm on standard. I don't have the half PPR in front of me, but just like, he's going to be very good. It's just how, I think he's going to be that range of players of like James Cook, borderline elite. Kyren Williams is a really, really, really good fantasy football player.
Half standard and standard full and half full. What kind of leagues are you playing, dog?
Look, the one thing I think we can all land on with Kenneth Walker, right, is we've named the positives of this is going to be a higher scoring offense under Patrick Mahomes. Kenneth Walker is going to get more opportunities. There's not a Zach Charbonnet to come in and literally siphon every single goal line opportunity possible. And for once, since how far back do you want to go? Rookie year, Kareem Hunt, they're going to be able to run the ball between the tackles. I mean, it can't be stated enough how important that's going to be to this Kansas City Chiefs offense. So Kenneth Walker, an A all around for us. Ty and I are willing to go ahead and give it some extra credit as well and bump it up to an A+. We will talk about another player on the Chiefs as well, but before we get there, I wanted to make sure you all have an opportunity to hit that subscribe button quick and turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content comes out. If you are a fan of NFL free agency, the NFL draft, fantasy football, dynasty fantasy football, whatever it may be, this is the page you're going to want to hang out with all off season long. We've got all sorts of great dynasty content coming out for you all. We've got great rookie content coming out too. So again, we would love to have you hang out with us this off season as we ramp up for the 2026 fantasy football season. The Chiefs are going to bring back Travis Kelce for his 14th season. They're giving him $12 million to come back and play for 1 year. We don't have the guarantees on that contract just yet. This is a pretty standard of the road B grade, right? I gave it a B plus mostly because you keep the continuity in Kansas City. I think once you do get Patrick Mahomes back, you roll the dice and you see if you can make a late season Super Bowl push. You two kind of hung out at a B here, which I can't really disagree on to any extent because this is a very vanilla, we all kind of expected at signing if Travis Kelce was going to come back this year.
Yeah, I almost just lean closer to B minus just because Mahomes is going to be out. So for me, it's kind of like we know Kelce has over the last couple of years faded a little bit as the season goes on. I'm just playing tight end, being 36, 37 years old. It obviously is going to weigh on you a little bit. So by the time Mahomes does come back, you're slowing down a little bit more. That's really what it comes down to. He's still going to be a guy that's worth taking in fantasy, but that's mainly because tight ends suck. No, they don't suck, but from a fantasy perspective, there are not a lot that are worth rostering the entire year. So he'll be relevant, but just not, it won't be anything fantastic or crazy.
Anything else you want to sprinkle into that, Ty? Again, it's very vanilla. It's a somewhere between a B minus and a B plus. So let's average it out at a B.
This would have been cool. This would have been bigger news 3-4 years ago. This is just the move that everyone expected.
Yeah.
Kelce's still going to be a top 5 guy. Maybe he for sure top 10, maybe might be a fringe top 5 guy just because like Cam said, the declining play. And we don't know Mahomes' health at this point. He may be ready to go at the beginning of the year, which would be wild. He may have to take a little bit of time. Like all of that could, play some kind of role in where Kelce finishes. But it's we still know that Kelce is going to be one of the top 10 options at tight end, even if it isn't Mahomes under center.
Now, I do want to take time to talk about a trade that happened because these are a part of free agency, right? We actually never got a chance to talk about the DJ Moore trade to the Buffalo Bills. Reunited with Joe Brady, DJ Moore. And this is complex, okay? You both have a grade of a B on this trade. I have a B minus because holy crap, when you Buffalo went out, got a guy who's probably better than a wide receiver 3 for their offense. DJ Moore is probably a wide receiver 2. But man, are you willing to pay $82 million in guarantees for DJ Moore? His 2026 and 2027 salary are fully guaranteed. Hidden Winks put it out there on Twitter. It's basically a 3-year, $74 million contract that DJ Moore is on right now. That to me, I get it for fantasy football. I'm like, you know what? I don't mind. DJ Moore is going to be a better option than Khalil Shakir, than Keon Coleman, than Dalton Kincaid, whoever it may be. But man, when I factor in the NFL narrative into this, it's tough to see how much the Bills invested into DJ Moore financially. The third highest paid wide receiver room now? Ty, I'll maybe start with you on this one. Where do you land on the DJ Moore spectrum here? Because I am far more pessimistic than I am optimistic, especially because of the guarantees.
If I could go back and change my grade, I would have this probably close to a C plus. I'll be honest. Yeah. Like the fantasy impact definitely is way more positive than the NFL side of this, right? Like you said, like I completely blanked and forgot about the contract terms of this deal. But then you also look at like the trade package, right? Like I can literally picture the phone call between Ryan Poles and Brandon Beane. And Brandon Beane goes, "Hey, we'll give you a 4th for DJ Moore." And then Ryan Poles goes, "No, you're going to give us a 2nd, and then you're going to make
deal.
Yeah. And Brandon and Beane just goes, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it. And it's just like, how? Why? You did like there was that seemed like no negotiating whatsoever. And you would like to think that like you could call the bluff on Chicago, right? That like you don't want to keep DJ Moore. You've got Luther Burden, you got Roma Dunze, right? Like all
Colson Loveland.
Yes, like the NFL side of this really, really puts a sour note on this. But ultimately, the reason why like it is still a B- grade for me is because he's reunited with Joe Brady, where DJ Moore in Carolina was the wide receiver 21 in points per game with him. That was back in 2020, I believe it was. Yeah. So things have certainly changed, but he is playing with Josh Allen, the best quarterback that he has played with up until this point. It's yet to be seen exactly what this staff can design and draw up for this offense, and specifically for DJ Moore, just because I think at this point we know that he is just a vertical and kind of design touch schemer in some ways. But you can't help but feel a little optimistic from a fantasy perspective of you're with Josh Allen, you're getting paid, so you're going to get on the field. Maybe there's a resurgence here in some way.
Cam, I'll let you get your nice smug little grin off your face as the DJ Moore enthusiast on this show. He has been your guy, even though he cost you the fantasy football championship to me this year. You literally went and changed our league name to DJ Moore Sucks. Yet here you are grinning ear to ear because DJ Moore is on the Buffalo Bills.
I finally have a stack in that league. I've had Josh Allen for forever. I never thought I was going to get one, and so I finally did it.
He's been playing long-term best ball.
Yes, all this hard work. For me, it really comes down to I think two things. There's a wide receiver we're going to talk about later who got similar money on a contract in Alec Pierce. We're actually going to talk about him next. But the wide receiver market's always changing. It's always getting ridiculous. And then you have to look at the fact that we added another $22 million to the salary cap this last year. Salary cap is up 40% since the pandemic. So like these contracts are just going to get more and more stupid, more and more ridiculous. So I'm not excusing that. And then you look at the draft capital side. I think it really is just an indication that we don't believe in any wide receivers that are going to be there in the second round this year.
Brandon Beane's thinking. I don't know what's going on between.
I mean, obviously, you put him like if you had one or the other, I think it's a lot more digestible. It's the fact that you have both of them that you're looking at. I'm not saying this to excuse it. I'm just saying.
Oh, no. I
looking at it through that lens. From a fantasy perspective, I don't think this is like the Amari Cooper trade where all of a sudden he's nothing. But at the same time, I don't think it's the Stephon Diggs trade where he's the greatest thing. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And I think it's going to look like last season did for DJ Moore, where it's volatile. It's just the lows aren't going to be quite as low. And I think we might get some higher highs just because you are playing with Josh Allen in a system that you like. So all that to being said, I think DJ Moore is probably going to be a middle to low end wide receiver 2. And I think that he might end up actually being a value invest in like drafts, just because people are so down right now on how disgusting this is from like a NFL perspective of contract in this, that they're going to like downgrade more than he should be. So maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the general public's going to come in and go, Bill's wide receiver, we love him, but Ty's just like,
yeah, Ty's down there just mean mugging. Just he's got something cooking down there.
No, something clicked for me. Okay, just follow with me here on this. Okay, what if we're just looking at the new Gabe Davis of the Buffalo Bills?
No.
I mean, am I that far off though? Yeah. Like if Buffalo only sees him for the verticality that he brings to the offense, is that not what Gabe Davis brought to them 2-3 years ago?
That's not how Joe Brady's used him before, though. That's not how Joe Brady's used him. And Gabe Davis did not have almost 100 receptions and 1,400 receiving yards with Justin Fields. All right. Gabe Davis had one playoff game with Josh Allen. I think it's different. I understand where you're coming from. I just think you're wrong.
I mean, DJ Moore put up 18 yards per reception in 2020 with Joe Brady.
Yeah.
And Gabe Davis was right around there his whole time in Buffalo.
But then he put up 10 last year or 2 years ago. So like he can do it all. He's go-getter. He can take snaps out of the backfield.
Go-getter.
Okay. I was wrong. Everyone saw the playoff clip. Go-getter is wrong. Hard worker, maybe not. But Denniston can do it.
All that I'm saying is that Gabe Davis took advantage of the verticality aspect of the Bills offense with Brian Dable, and you have with Josh Allen under center and the cannon of an arm that he has. Gabe Davis made people believe that he was a top 20 wide receiver in his last year in Buffalo. I'm not saying that's exactly how they see DJ Moore. The money would lend you to believe that money would lend you to believe
they don't. Yeah, right.
But like,
he's Alec Pierce plus.
No, well, sure. I don't know.
Now we're just getting reckless. We're getting we're getting way too. We're trying to galaxy. We're not even galaxy braiding it. We're just mush braiding this.
Let me just say this: if it doesn't work out, that's exactly what we're getting. Is new. It is Gabe Davis of 2026. That's what we're getting. If it doesn't work out, if it works out, then there's going to be some extra. There's going to be more volume on top of it. But if it doesn't work out, which is a very real possibility after what we saw with DJ Moore last year, maybe it was a lack of motivation, whatever it is. But if it doesn't pan out, don't be surprised if this is a very, very similar production ceiling as a Gabe Davis.
What I will close this segment out on, because again, we clearly have thoughts on DJ Moore that we haven't been able to get out on this show. Because my number one strengths finder is harmony, I'm going to end on a note that everybody can agree upon, is that DJ Moore going from the Chicago Bears and a wide receiver room full of Romeo Doubs, Luther Burden, and Colson Loveland at tight end, moving to the Buffalo Bills that has substantially less competition, and you could definitely say Josh Allen is an upgrade from Caleb Williams. That should, in theory, equal better things for DJ Moore, to the way in which he's utilized within this offense. TBD, the reuniting with Joe Brady seems to be positive as well, but there's also a lot of ambiguity and extra questions that we can ask around this as well. So we'll dive into that more as we look ahead to the 2026 fantasy football season. But we got another conversation to crack open here, because Alec Pierce re-signs with the Colts on a 4-year, $114 million contract. Try $84 million of that guaranteed, which is the 5th most guaranteed wide receiver money in the entire league. Here's where I land on the Alec Pierce spectrum. This is very within the context of everything else that's unfolded. We're going to talk about Michael Pittman as well, moving to the Steelers. This is very much a B for me, because what this tells me is that the Colts have an immense amount of confidence in Alec Pierce if they're willing to move on from Michael Pittman, if they're willing to give Alec Pierce an astronomical contract. And Cameron, you brought up the salary cap increasing year over year, 40% since the pandemic, you said? Like, I get it. In 3 years, this could look like a standard run-of-the-mill high-end wide receiver 2 contract in the NFL. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But in the short term, when you're also paying nearly $38 million on the transition tag for Daniel Jones as well, coming off an Achilles, I question the short-term picture and impact here for the Indianapolis Colts, for Alec Pierce, where I find it difficult to give this thing anything higher than a B, considering the sample size I'm looking at here is literally one season. Is that worth $114 million based off of what I got in 2025? I still have questions about that, especially with the health and the changes that are happening in Indianapolis right now. But Cameron, I'll maybe start with you and we'll work our way up to Ty, because I'm at a B, you're at a B plus, Ty's at an A minus. So what makes this a B plus for you?
I think for me, it's more than just Alec Pierce. It's what it does for the rest of this offense. And for me, it is hard to kind of talk about this without the context of the Michael Pittman Jr. deal as well, because I think
Sure.
that comes into it a little bit. So I'll try and
We
hold
can
off
talk about
on
the
it.
Colts. We could talk
Yeah.
about the Colts context of that, but we'll
Yeah.
save like the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
conversation for Michael
For sure.
Pittman.
So for me, it's what it does for the full offense. Obviously, all of this hinges on Daniel Jones coming back healthy, right? If Daniel Jones looks like Kirk Cousins did his first couple of games back off the Achilles, this is going to be like, who cares about the Colts offense? But Alec Pierce, an elite field stretcher, this opens up for Josh Downs to participate a little bit more in the offense. I'm not saying, like, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm saying Josh Downs like a top 20 wide receiver all of a sudden, but he could be a nice little wide receiver 3. Jonathan Taylor keeps defenses honest. Tyler Warren, I really like this for. I think he's probably the biggest winner of everything that's happened for the Colts right now. Of the middle of the, where they're going to use him is everywhere now. So I think that's why I give it a B, is the full context. I don't know if it changes too much for Alec Pierce. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be an 80 reception kind of guy. I think maybe we do see an uptick because I feel, hey, we have to give him the ball now. But I really don't think things are going to change enough for Alec Pierce where you're going, all right, here's a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football.
I mean, 1,000 yards on only 47 receptions last season. I mean, I get it. He's been averaging nearly 21 point, if I do some quick math here, 21.8 yards per reception the last 2 seasons. Hey, that's great. You can create an explosive and dynamic play downfield. Is that sustainable enough, Ty, year over year, or do you look at that and does that scream like volatility to you? And I'm guessing you probably lean one way over the other, considering you're at an A-.
Maybe the best way to say it is this. I agree on the sentiment that Alec Pierce probably isn't going to be an 80 reception type guy, but I do think that 80 catches and 111 targets has to trickle in some way after Tyler Warren went for 76 and 112. So yes, Tyler Warren could be a winner. How much higher do we think that goes compared to Alec Pierce? There is the reckless speculation side of this for me personally, where this is just my theory. I don't think the Colts were really in the race for Pierce at the very beginning, because it's not really a secret. Teams negotiate before the tampering period. Okay, that happens.
That's the reality.
But I feel like Indy came in big at the end to sway Pierce to stay, because then they decided we're going to move on for Pittman. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't afford to keep both, but then they also couldn't afford to lose both. So that's when they came in big for Pierce, and they're like, here's all this guaranteed money. So ultimately, I do think that there is still going to be some volatility, because I do think that he is still going to maintain that field stretcher role. You're only going to get a certain amount of looks like that per game. But I also have a hope, I'll call it, that, hey, maybe Alec Pierce becomes a more well-rounded receiver for this offense instead of only primarily the field stretcher. But again, like, you can't just like limit what Alec Pierce does best, right? So that's where I believe the volatility lies. Of he's going to continue getting the downfield looks, but he's not going to get nearly as many. I shouldn't say not get as many, but he's going to get looks where he's underneath or over the middle of the field, and it's just not really going to go anywhere, because that's just not the player that he is at this point, in my opinion. All of that to say, I ultimately think that with all the moves that Indy has made, right, and now you look at the hierarchy in the passing game between Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren and Josh Downs, like, Alec Pierce should probably be finishing closer to wide receiver 20 than to wide receiver 30. He was the wide receiver 20, I want to say 23 in half PPR points per game this past year. So I don't think it's going to be a crazy jump up to what Cam said, like top 15, finish or anything like that. But I'm going to expect him to stay close to that wide receiver 20 mark, then fall off or stay closer to 25 even.
Wide receiver 24 in half PPR
24.
formats last season for Alec
23, 23. I mean, it's
You were
all the
wrong.
same.
The point is you were wrong. No, and like ultimately, I do think that's why my B is where it is, and it's not any lower, because I do think we're going to see the route tree, the schematic usage of Alec Pierce expand this year. And my hope is that he's not going to become like this prolific do it all X wide receiver or anything, but the hope is that he is featured more often in this offense. He finally hits triple digit targets this year. I certainly would like to hope he does. And thus, I do think you could potentially get, like you said, Ty, another top 25 season from him this year. There's enough optimism that I'm holding on to there for that to happen. Let's talk about the Michael Pittman side of this coin, though, right? Because they paid Alec Pierce all this money. That meant Michael Pittman, you got to hit the road. The traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, to where he ended up signing a 3-year, $59 million deal. Romeo Doubs got paid more than Michael Pittman, which is fascinating to me.
Rude.
Let's talk about this one, though, because in my head, I'm sitting at a seat. And before I went back and changed my grade literally like minutes before the show started, I was sitting a lot lower than this, because in my head, for fantasy football, I don't know how many worse options you could have come up with for Michael Pittman. To the Jets, maybe, as their wide receiver too, right? Like that'd be worse. Hey, if he would have got traded to Vegas, at least he's got a shot to be number 1 for Mendoza. Like, that might be better than 2 in Pittsburgh behind DK Metcalf.
1B.
Maybe in Miami? Would 2 to Jalen Waddle in Miami be worse? But now they got Malik Willis, so you have that context. So I just to me, I look at this for Michael Pittman in Pittsburgh, and it is so uninspiring to me. Yet I get it from both of your perspectives at a B-, because if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, oh my gosh, you need another pass catcher in there outside of DK Metcalf to make something happen. So Cameron, I'll start with you on this one. You're also the homeland Michael Pittman guy on this show.
Somehow.
B-. Tell me more about your grade. What goes into that for you?
Yeah, I've come around on him. Yeah,
you have. Used to be the number one Michael Pittman hater.
Yeah, wait a second. Wasn't there a Treylon Burks Michael Pittman trade a while back between 2 people on this show?
You can't even flex that. That's like I was everybody lost. Everyone lost.
Brother, I fleeced Pittman in a second out of you for Treylon in a third.
Who did that second turn into? We don't know. All right,
we don't know, and we don't care.
We don't care.
Michael Pittman, I honestly, the more I've thought about it, it's hard to separate what the Steelers have been the last couple of years with Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, the way the offensive run, to Mike McCarthy now. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge change. I'm not, right. Dak had 2 seasons under McCarthy where he threw the ball 590 plus times. That'd be very different than what I don't think that they're going to do that, because I don't think they're going to bring in a quarterback where it's worth doing that for.
Would have to be like mechanically reprogrammed to do
and
that.
If it's Kyler Murray, I don't think he's going to throw it that many times. So I don't think that's necessarily, but I do think they're going to be a little more pass happy than what we've seen in the past, maybe more pass friendly or wide receiver friendly. The person I think this hurts the most between Metcalf and Pittman is Metcalf, because I think that's what it means is Metcalf is just the field stretcher, right? Metcalf is the guy that you're using down the field more, because Pittman, you're going to play underneath. And DK was kind of getting a little bit of both of that last year. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they use him better than I think I have in my head, and maybe they are using him across the middle. Maybe they are using him all over. I just think Pittman's, we're going to call it, DK as 1, Pittman as a 2, but from fantasy purposes, I really question how close it's going to feel to Pittman being the 1 in this offense from a fantasy perspective. All that being said, that could mean both are finishing outside the top 24 wide receivers, and Easily. It doesn't really matter. So
easily.
There's a lot to be had, and I really think it depends on the quarterback here, because if it's just Rodgers again, it's going to be like, all right, I got 2 lackluster wide receivers now who are going to, go between wide receiver 18 and 29 in drafts. And I don't really want either because they're not exciting. That's what it's going to kind of feel like.
The last thing you said there is the most important, right? At the end of the day, when I'm looking at DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman, I'm worried both of these guys are going to be the wide receiver 30 or worse.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned about. I don't care who's the 1 or 2. I don't even think it matters whether DK Metcalf is used more on the drag routes over the middle or go ahead and run a go route, be our field stretcher. Like, I think DK Metcalf is still probably going to function as this team's one in a multitude of different ways, but you don't sign Michael Pittman to a $3 or $59 million deal to not use him either within this offense as the wide receiver 2 to get some help in the passing game. Ty, what's your B plus or B minus? Excuse me, mean to you?
So let's start with the NFL side of this. Pittsburgh needs, like, desperately, it was so apparent last year, they needed someone opposite DK Metcalf. I think moving forward, looking at Mike McCarthy compared to an Arthur Smith offense, I do think like we will get more of the best of DK Metcalf, because DK Metcalf at his best is when he is the field stretcher, when he is the guy that can surprise the defense by going underneath and then just, sprinting past dudes, right? We got kind of a nerfed DK Metcalf to a certain extent in most games last year, because I'll be honest, I don't think in Arthur Smith offense, I should say we've known this. Arthur Smith offenses are never kind to wide receivers.
To anyone.
Never.
to anyone.
That's why he's not.
They're just rude to everybody.
Everybody. Except the defense. I think Mike McCarthy, again, will let Pittman, like you said, Cam, let him work underneath and let DK Metcalf stretch the defense and push them back. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is like Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman 2.0 to a certain extent, if that makes sense, where DK Metcalf is going to get more targets than Alec Pierce, right? That's the caliber of wide receiver that DK Metcalf is. But it wouldn't surprise me if Michael Pittman actually ends the year with more receptions than DK Metcalf, but Metcalf's going to have more yards and probably more touchdowns, right? So if there's a receiver between the two that you would still prefer, I think it is still DK Metcalf. But I do think, to Lucas, the point that you were making, like, there is a world where Michael Pittman is kind of like low-end wide receiver 3, borderline fringe flex play every week, because you're just not sure of what the work will actually be like. And it's not, I mean, we'll talk about the next guy who's also now going to be in Pittsburgh, where I don't know if touchdowns are necessarily going to fall Michael Pittman's way with DK Metcalf and now the running game that they have now. So yes, you can look at Michael Pittman and go, wow, he's got such a volume opportunity here in Pittsburgh because DK Metcalf isn't going to be getting like 8, 9, 10 targets a game. But that can only take you so far. And if you're not going to be scoring touchdowns, you're not actually going to be used downfield as much as you were last year. It just limits the excitement. So honestly, like, I split this into 2 grades. I gave the NFL grade a B for Pittsburgh side of it, but the fantasy football impact is like a C+. So I just split it right down the middle with a B-. I was just like, I see the pros, I see the cons, I see the worlds where it doesn't work out, I see the worlds where it kind of does work out. But it's just not a needle moving move. It doesn't get you too excited. It's just one of those, like, this might just be a better NFL move than fantasy football move.
My biggest fear in all of this is that we get a 2024 Michael Pittman season instead of a 2025 Michael Pittman season, where you get 111 targets, you get 70 receptions, you get 808 yards, but you only get 3 touchdowns compared to 2025, 10 more receptions, technically 24 less yards, but you get 4 more touchdowns, right? I'm worried this is the Michael Pittman we're still going to get in Pittsburgh. And My worry is that we're going to land right in the middle of that, which is going to be right around like the wide receiver 36. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the highers on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Ty, you alluded to our next guy also being signed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was Rico Dowdle, who joined on a 2-year, $12.1 million contract. This is just your standard run-of-the-mill. I'm indifferent about this one. I'm not like, oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. The Steelers got a guy who is going to take this run game to the next level. I also am not going to say that Rico Dowdle is a waste of an ad, because I do think they need to bring someone else in. Jalen Warren's back. You're not going to just trot him out there all by his lonesome. So this is a C for me. I'm a little bit curious to hear, Cam, where you and Ty kind of differentiate on this, because you're actually lower than me at a C minus, and Ty, you're all the way up at a B. So Cam, I'll start with you here. What puts this at a C minus for you?
I just don't. Yeah, I mean, Jai, I just don't have a lot. I mean, Rico Dowdle, sorry, same player. I just
what? Wow. Wow. Jai, shots fired. Bow, bow.
It's just, yeah, okay. He's had a couple of really good games, and then he's had a couple of really not good games. I just don't.
That's a little disrespectful to Rico Dowdle.
Didn't Jai have like 800 yards in 4 games? I mean, so I don't know. I just I don't think it does much. I don't think it moves the needle for anything. I think it makes him and Jalen Warren at best, Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard from last year when they were fully splitting time together 50-50. It ruins Caleb Johnson for me.
Caleb Johnson's never getting out of the shadow room. No, that dude's gone. That dude's gone. He is never coming back.
The only thing I will say is Mike McCarthy was not a part of the regime that signed Jalen Warren, and they did sign Rico Dowdle. So maybe that's the plus, where Rico Dowdle is going to see the field more, where he's going to be the one where he's more fantasy relevant. Like, I think he's worth, like, you know, depending where he goes in drafts, especially like best ball, he's probably worth taking a shot on, because he'll probably be in that running back dead zone of, you know, if he kind of does get on one of those hot streaks, it can be really good. But I think he's just a running back dead zone running back who people are going to hype up right before the season, and it's going to be,
Yes, that's where I'm at. That's why I'm like very middle of the road on this, because I could see the highs with this new regime saying, hey, actually, you know what? 2 years, we're making a commitment to Rico Dowdle. Not that Jalen Warren isn't in our plans for this year, but we're clearly going to invest in Rico Dowdle and make him the 1A. I feel like we're just overusing 1A, 1B, but we'll make him the 1A. But on the contrary, I fear this is just going to be a standard run of the mill. You're not going to get anything special out of a dead zone running back, most likely in fantasy football, Ty. So that's why I landed a C. But you seem to perk up a little bit when Cam mentioned new regime under Mike McCarthy. You smell some optimism.
That is the pro Rico Dowdle case, is that you saw what he did with Mike McCarthy his last year in Dallas, where he put up 1,000 yards. He kind of came out of nowhere. Everyone, yes, Zeke was still there, but it was really the Rico Dowdle show. Your hope is that Pittsburgh utilizes, because I mean, Jalen Warren, Rico Dowdle, they're on very similar type money. They're going to give you similar levels of play in terms of the final like production numbers. It's not stylistically the same, but they can be similar. But at the same time, you may look at Rico Dowdle as the early down guy, the goal line guy, the downhill runner kind of between the tackles, and Jaylen Warren kind of reverting back into the pass catching role, maybe. So ultimately, your optimism is then that, like, hey, Rico Dowdle is actually going to be the guy to actually get into the end zone. But I also can see a world where, honestly, this can be kind of what the modern NFL likes to do with the drive-by-drive committees, where it's one drive Rico Dowdle, the next is Jaylen Warren. Whoever's a hot hand goes next, right? That's a very realistic possibility as well. I gave this the optimistic grade of B just because I believe that Pittsburgh wouldn't just go out to sign Rico Dowdle for the heck of it. They wouldn't just go out and sign a running back just as be like, like Geno Warren can't be the guy. But the familiarity with Mike McCarthy, Rico Dowdle, I think, is in a prime position to get the majority of the high value touches here. So from the fantasy impact, yes, when you hear Rico Dowdle on the Steelers, it may not excite you, but I think there's an opportunity to be had here for Rico Dowdle to be the more fantasy productive back between him and Jaylen Warren. But this is one that I'm going to be watching the beat reports and all that stuff pretty much until the start of the regular season, because that's just me being optimistic. It's very possible, again, that we get the whole, like, one day Jaylen Warren is with the ones and the next day it's Rico Dowdle, but then the day after that we're right back with Jaylen Warren. So this will be one to play out, but I choose to look at this glass half full rather than glass half empty.
I'm so happy you're going to be the Rico Dowdle guy.
Yeah, there's going to be one in every draft, and we got Ty. We got Ty. We know it's
your hill to die on. You have claimed it already. March 10th. Write it down. Ty is the Rico Dowdle guy.
Okay, I'm the Rico Dowdle guy. Thanks, guys.
But to be fair to you, Ty, I think you're right. You're seeing this glass half full. Cam, I am very much seeing this glass half empty, and Cam is probably like, it's not even half full. What do you mean? We're not even halfway to filling the glass.
I don't even think it's water.
Yeah. That's where Cam's at. Let's talk about not a more prominent signing, but one that maybe comes with a wider span of fantasy implications, because Malik Willis signs a 3-year, $67.5 million deal, $45 million fully guaranteed with the Miami Dolphins. I'll start with this. Maybe I've seen people say, wow, what a team-friendly deal he signed for less than people were projecting. I think people projecting $30 million for Malik Willis were something was going on in between their ears. I have no clue what was happening. I don't know what their thought process was on that. I had Malik Willis pegged for more in the $20 to $25 million range. We land somewhere in there, but he lands with the Dolphins, right? And we're all hovering. My guess is we're all going to have very similar thoughts on this. I'm at a B-. Cam, you're at a C+. Ty, you're at a C+. For me, if they were going to move on from Tua Tagovailoa, it makes sense that you're basically bringing Northern Green Bay down to Miami. So you may as well just call Miami South Green Bay at this point. The connections make sense. It lines up. Ty, I'll start with you on this one, because you made this prediction in our free agency predictions video saying, hey, you got all the connections in Green Bay down in Miami already. Assuming Tua was gone, like, Malik Willis is probably going to be the guy they go after to at least show we're serious about trying to figure out quarterback here in at least the foreseeable future.
This one, maybe it is just because I was predicting it. This is just one that I when I saw the deal happen, it didn't surprise me. It didn't, the money thing, I just kind of threw out the window, because I was like, Malik Willis is probably the number one quarterback. Quarterback is just going to generate money. So the money aspect didn't really shock me, even if it wasn't an overpay or an underpay or whatever. I just see Malik Willis as just prove it, man. Like, you're getting paid $45 million in guaranteed money based on 6 games in a Green Bay Packer jersey, which 6 games in Green Bay looked pretty good. Better than what you would expect, and better from what we got in Tennessee.
Yes.
This isn't Green Bay, though. Like, yes, there's a Green Bay connection with Eric John Sullivan, the GM, and with Jeff Hafley as the head coach. That's it. As far as I'm in terms of the Green Bay connections that matter, in my opinion, that's it. So I maybe would have a higher grade on this if Miami had gone out, and I don't think there was any way that they were going to be able to do this. But I also had predicted Romeo Doubs to Miami. Had Romeo Doubs signed in Miami, I may have given this a higher grade because I was like, actually, Miami's kind of giving Malik Willis something to work with alongside Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane, and a pretty solid offensive line as it stands right now. But I just, again, it's probably just because I expected it, honestly. I think this is a good opportunity for Malik Willis, but again, I just kind of saw this one coming from a mile away.
So less excitement because it felt more predictable. Fair enough. The implications are still relatively the same. Where are you at, Cam?
Yeah, it's not Malik Willis's fault. It's not the new regime's fault. I just think it's the position they're in, having to his contract, of knowing they're not going to be a deep team. If they have any injuries, they're in trouble. It's just, I'm just worried that this is not the best place for Malik Willis to go to be a good starter, right? And I'm worried that it's just not going to work out because they have this $100 million cap hit over 2 years looming that they're just so hamstrung by that they can't do anything. Now, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, great start. I think Bobby Slowick is not a bad offensive coordinator to have around in Miami. And
you do a lot worse.
You could definitely do a lot worse. And I really think it's he made CJ Stroud look good that rookie season. Like you remember that rookie season, CJ Stroud was like the new hot thing. And now it's like, I don't think the Texans can pay CJ Stroud after what we saw in the playoffs. So you have both sides of that.
You
so
get that man some more protection too.
Yeah,
Holy
exactly.
cow.
So I think it could go right, but I think it could go wrong just because there's just not enough there. And that's my concern. That's why it's a C+. I think it was the right move for the Dolphins. You got to do something at quarterback, or you just completely tank and you just don't sign anybody and you do what the Cardinals are doing.
The Jets.
Yeah, the Jets.
Jeez Louise.
And I think it could all work out. Like I said, Green Bay connections. It's just, I don't know. I'm right in the middle because I feel like it's going to go one of two ways, and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate reason why I land on a B- is that, hey, you're the Miami Dolphins. You are showing you're serious, right? You can't say that about the Jets right now. The Cardinals, I might have a little bit more grace for because I do believe they probably were going to try and take a swing at Malik Willis here, but he ultimately decided to go to Miami, and now the Cardinals are kind of left holding the bag after cutting Kyler Murray. I think it makes them big losers in free agency. Don't get me wrong, but I'm willing to have a little bit more grace there versus the Jets. It's just kind of like, I don't think they're actually being serious about anything. I get tanky for the number 1 overall pick next year in a much, 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 much better quarterback class. But again, glass half empty, glass half full. We'll maybe land on that analogy to close out this one too. Yes, sir.
Just because I like to have some fun. Where were you on the evening that Bam Adebayo put up 83 points against the Washington Wizards?
I just saw this on my feed. I was 9:10 p.m. Central Time. I was recording a podcast talking about Malik Willis. Forever, Bam Adebayo and Malik Willis are going to be linked.
And
They
Bam
are
has
full bonded at this point.
37 free throws.
Shea Gilda's numbers.
He's got 40 points in the second half. They're up by 30. Crazy work.
20. Good math, but that's 20. But
that's the Wizards. Sure. It's pretty much 30.
It's
Man,
net 30 at the end of the day.
That's crazy work.
From Malik Willis to Bam Adebayo to Wan'Dale Robinson. There's no way to link all these together.
I think you did it perfectly. That was just a great transition. Well done.
The only way you could.
Two Miami boys to a guy who's with the Tennessee Titans now. Wan'Dale Robinson, literally, as Ricky Scoops put it, the worst kept secret of the offseason was Wan'Dale Robinson going to the Tennessee Titans. We're talking 4 years, $70 million, just over half of that guaranteed, only $38 million in guarantees for Wan'Dale Robinson. Reunites with Brian Dable. Cameron, I'm a little bit interested to hear your thoughts on this because Ty and I We talked about this in the predictions video. We both predicted Wan'Dale Robinson going to the Tennessee Titans. It makes a ton of sense. You got to get Cam Ward a security blanket underneath, so he's not just throwing down the sideline to Alec Pierce and Chimere DK. You got to get him some reliable weapon underneath. And the fact that Brian Daboll literally had to go out and use Wan'Dale Robinson as his wide receiver 1 this last year, I'm not saying it amounted to anything crazy, but the reason why I give this an A- is maybe less about Wan'Dale Robinson individually. I think it's good for him, but I think this does, I'm not going to say wonders for Cam Ward, but this definitely gives me a bit more confidence in him settling down this year.
Yeah, I think we're going to have the quarterback 17 and the wide receiver 27 here. So like, it's just, that's why it's just boring. Like, I get it from a developmental standpoint. But
I love how you just shrugged off wide receiver 27 like it's no big deal. Like, there's a place for that.
It's a usable flex option.
He was wide receiver 16 last year. So like, it's just going to be a downgrade. So that's just, I don't know. I think that's what to be but it's not like, oh yes, now Wan'Dale is going to be a fringe, top 12 wide or top 12 or even a middle wide receiver 15 kind of guy. I just don't believe it. And I don't think Cam Ward is going to take a crazy step forward this season. So yeah, I just think it's
I get that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Tennessee Titans are Super Bowl contenders because they added Wan'Dale Robinson, but I also think it's a little bit disrespectful to just say from also a wide lens NFL perspective, looking at how it can impact fantasy football on a multitude of levels, to just say, it's boring. Right. It's a B-.
Sorry, I should have gone B.
It's a B.
There you go. It's an 84% B.
I would have tried to negotiate you up to a B+. So
you would not have gotten there.
I will maybe settle on a small victory and take a B from you instead. Ty, anything you want to add in terms of the A- narrative that you and I share here?
I think the best way I can say this is that what Brian Daboll can do to scheme Wan'Dale open, with Wan'Dale's ability to get open underneath and also downfield, if you are not careful as a defense, it's just refreshing that Cam Ward finally has somebody that he can throw to. He has somebody like that in his offense that can honestly be a viable option in the passing game on multiple levels of the field, because it felt like Alec Pierce was only good for downfield stuff. Felt like Chimere DK was really, really close just to get the ball out quick. You now have a guy that can do it on multiple levels of the field. That is, yes, I should say this. That is propped up by Brian Daboll. But at the same time, when Brian Daboll got hired by Tennessee, a lot of people just instantly went, hold on a second. There's something there with that one. And I think Wan'Dale is like the perfect, I think maybe the final cherry on top. Wan'Dale isn't like final product for Tennessee or anything like that, but I do think that Wan'Dale is kind of the catalyst to help Tennessee's offense start to improve and get going here eventually.
So he's Christian Kirk is what you're saying?
Don't you dare throw it. Why are we
whoa. Christian Kirk had a good first year, didn't he? Wasn't he a top 17 wide receiver in Jacksonville that first year?
He was, yes. He was a top 12 wide receiver his first year in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and then he just got hurt. So that's a good comparison. That is a good Don't give me that crap. He's not Christian Kirk, but
maybe it's just that you can't say, hey, it's like Christian Kirk after what Christian Kirk did this past year in Houston, where he was saying that zero.
That's true. It's old Christian Kirk, COVID Christian Kirk.
COVID Christian Kirk. That's going to be a wild pull one day. Golly, to go from Wan'Dale Robinson is I don't want to say somehow more of an inspiring signing to the Tennessee Titans. and Romeo Doubs to the New England Patriots. Schematically, I'm fine with this. I'm also looking at the New England Patriots, and I'm asking, how can you be so bad at signing wide receiver talent, drafting wide receiver talent, trading to acquire wide receiver? I know so many people want A.J. Brown to New England already. I completely understand. It's a lot more far-fetched than I think the national buzz is making it. I'm not a special insider or anything, but contractually, it's an absolute mud bath to try and figure out. But Romeo Doubs ends up with the New England Patriots, like I said, actually getting paid more than Michael Pittman in total. 4 years, $68 million. Cam, you and I are sitting at a B here. Here's it doesn't solve anything for Drake May. It doesn't. You got to get him a better weapon than Romeo Doubs. But isn't it also just kind of Josh McDaniels to like not figure this thing out? Like either considering his final stretch with the Patriots and Tom Brady. I mean, you're running out Julian Edelman out there who's coming off the street. Not literally, but you get what I'm saying. How do you like Romeo Doubs in New England?
So I do want to just say, like, I understand I had Wan'Dale at B minus, Romeo at a B. I think Wan'Dale's gonna be better fantasy overall, but for me, the way I graded it was looking at where they're coming from, right? So Wan'Dale, like I said, finished wide receiver 16 last year. I think he's probably gonna be a little bit lower, but probably in the same range. I just have Romeo Doubs slightly higher because I do think he's gonna finish better than where he was at last season. I think he's gonna be in that wide receiver 3 conversation. Which, you know, coming from where he was at last season is an upgrade. He's a wide receiver 41, obviously missed some time. So, but he's going to be the wide receiver 1. They're going to use him as such. We've seen flashes from Romeo Doubs, but I think he's going to be one of those guys at like week 2, week 3. He's going to drop like 5 for 123 and 2 or something like that. And everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, the signing worked. They did it. And you're going to have your league mates who don't know better trade their Drake London, who struggled in the first 2 weeks for him. And then he's going to be the rest of the season. So that's kind of where I think Romeo Doubs is going to be at. He's going to have some spike weeks, but it's going to be just a little bit more of the same with more volume as it was in Green Bay.
So to me, it's just you're adding another wide receiver 2.5 to a room full of wide receiver 3s at this point. So I get it. Romeo Doubs probably rises above the rest here, but B+ on your end. You do like this for the Patriots.
I do, just because when I look at the rest of their wide receivers, right? Kayshon Boutte, as much as we like Kyle Williams, I don't know if New England has a ton of confidence in Kyle Williams. Demario Douglas, wild hot take.
He had more touchdowns than Caleb Johnson.
I think us 3 combined had more than Caleb Johnson.
If not, we were tied for sure.
I think Romeo Doubs is at least the most viable option to win a one-on-one matchup and to be a volume type of guy, just because with Boutte, it seems like most of his fantasy production came from the downfield shots. And maybe this is just because I'm a Ricky Scoops truther. You can't help but feel like this was a mad scramble to at least go get a guy because you missed out on Alec Pierce.
I just don't understand why you don't start on Mike Evans here, though.
Which I think maybe the best way.
I get he's not a long-term solution here for this team, but you can't also look at Romeo Doubs and say, yeah, because we signed him to a 4-year deal, he's our long-term guy. Like you have got to get someone better in there than Romeo Doubs for Drake May.
Do we have a guarantee number on Doubs?
I don't know if we do, but I keep digging, because
it wouldn't surprise me because Mike Evans's deal eventually got to like it was just like 16 million guaranteed, so 1 year 16 million. It wouldn't surprise me if like you looked at it per year average.
52.5 guaranteed. Yeah, 52.5 guaranteed.
So over 4 years, that's 13 million. 13 million guaranteed, essentially.
Yeah, that's essentially almost the first 3 years guaranteed.
So like 13 compared to 16, Like, I think I understand the just go get Mike Evans. Don't try to get cute with it. Just go get Mike Evans because you know he's a proven commodity. I just think Romeo Doubs at least is a guy that hey, you need to go get open. Like, I think the best way I phrase it is you had a guy to get open for you if needed in a pinch with Stephon Diggs, but you had him as a limited player. Like you gave him 60% of snaps or something like that. Romeo Doubs can be on the field for you at all times. Yeah. So there is some positivity. Probably another one of these, I see the glass just a little more half full than you guys. I don't think you guys deny the opportunity that Romeo Doubs is just hey, you know what? Romeo Doubs could be the target getter for New England this year.
I like the fit. I like the fit here.
Right.
I'm just more so critical of the Patriots of holy crap, how can you be so bad at getting quality wide receivers in your room? We're not to say Romeo Doubs isn't a quality wide receiver, but
that's
it just feels like with if they tried to take a swing on Alec Pierce and they didn't get him, if they try to take a swing on Mike Evans and he goes to San Francisco,
Romeo
Doubs is fine. He's not inspiring for me here. It's a good fit. He's going to be fine in New England, but I'm just more so critical of the Patriots of not getting Drake May something more sustainable.
They're a team too. I could see trading out of the first and grabbing a wide receiver or something in the mid to late 30s in the second round. So I don't think that's all the realm of possibilities either for this team of bringing someone else in. So that's also something to watch when it comes to Romeo Doubs.
But even in that,
I'm not saying that makes your grade better. I just I think that's something.
if you're the Patriots trying to address wide receiver, you're throwing darts and you're hitting no doubles or triples. You're hitting all singles, right? And which is fine. But I don't think that's going to get you back to a Super. I don't think it's going to win you a Super Bowl.
What if just reckless speculation time? What if New England trades up because a wide receiver by the name of Jordan Tyson
starts to slide a little bit?
Right.
So it might be forgiven there.
Right. Might be forgiven.
That could happen. Do they have the ammunition for that?
They have Drake May.
Let me. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, they got their second, they got their third, they got a ton of day 3 picks.
They do have they have their first, second, and third,
and then 2 fourths.
So
2 fourths. Yeah, they got the ammunition to do it potentially.
They got it, and even if it's not Jordan Tyson, I don't mind Omar Cooper Jr. either. Right, pairing him up with Romeo Doubs,
KC baby.
I understand that it isn't an exciting. It's not a the potential was there to get a big ticket wide receiver,
a big ticket marquee name that can go up and instill more confidence in Drake May than just a Romeo Doubs over the middle.
But was Alec Pierce the only guy that's going to do that for you? And are you fully convinced that he's the way at $30 million a year? That's the only question I'm asking is,
I'm not saying that was the right move to do that, but
I just don't know if there was the names necessarily in this wide receiver class that you're you missed, because you go through the wide receivers, it's not like you really missed anybody. You just didn't do anything to address it. And I also think just the fact that AJ Brown's name's been floated around, even though it's not necessarily realistic, is making this seem worse because you're well, we could have had, something a little bit more.
I'll say this. Shefty said on McAfee today, he's the Romeo Doubs signing doesn't mean that New England is out of an AJ Brown sweepstakes. No. It just doesn't make it as dire of a situation to go get an AJ Brown. So like we said with Jordan Tyson or anything like if you get Jordan Tyson or you get AJ Brown, this won't be as critiqued under a microscope as probably as we have right now. But on the surface, at least right now, because there is no one else, it's man, just lackluster, honestly.
It's not that I understand that the need for a wide receiver one becomes quote unquote less dire, but the needle doesn't move that much further with Romeo Doubs either, is where I'm at. Yeah. Despite a good fit into the system, despite like you said, Cameron, I think Romeo Doubs does take an uptick in terms of fantasy production this year under Drake May, in what we hope to be another phenomenal season for the New England Patriots. Within the grand context and scheme of things, though, I can also sit here and say New England, like 4 years, 70 million, and we're guaranteeing 53 of that. Like that's a commitment that I just don't know if I'm like, is Romeo Doubs 100% worth that? TBD. A lot of questions there. Let's wrap out. We got two more. We babbled a lot about Romeo Doubs for no reason. But we have J.K. Dobbins returning to the Denver Broncos here. Is this just as simple as we saw what it was last year? J.K. Dobbins coming off injury again, and for all the smoke that Denver was blowing about, Breece Hall got the franchise tag because we were going to trade for him. Oh, the price tag for David Montgomery went up because we upped the prices for and then you just end up with J.K. Dobbins. That's a lot of smoke to be just blown for what we already saw last year in J.K. Dobbins. That's why it's a C+ for me.
Yeah, you got 2 dead zone running backs now on this team. Nobody likes Sean Payton, and I think it's all the same. So yeah.
Same for you, Ty?
Same for me. You had an opportunity for better. It looked like J.K. Dobbins wasn't terrible, but it's just like you could have had better. You could have had better.
Look at last season. It's not going to be directly copy and paste, but you kind of know what you're getting here. You know what the balance is going to be here in Denver. Not much is going to change. The last one we should cover, though, Geno Smith getting traded to the New York Jets. It seems like the Raiders are paying majority of the contract here. It was Geno Smith and a 2026 7th round pick to the Jets in order to take on to get a 6th round pick in return. Excuse me. Basically, they moved up 20 spots. That's all it was. The Jets moved up 20 spots or the Raiders moved up 20 spots in the draft to get rid of Geno Smith. Cam, you and I are pretty harsh on this one. D+. To me, this just shows the Jets aren't serious and they're a joke of a franchise. That's it. That's it. You're clearly tanking. Nothing about Geno Smith last season with Las Vegas gave you any confidence for this year. He's not Jameis Winston. This is just the New York Jets. This is a joke, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, last time he was a Jet, he got sucker punched on the field and literally. So I just don't know how much changes this time. I don't love it for Garrett Wilson. I don't love it for Breece Hall. They're not going to score more touchdowns. Frank Reich is not a good play caller. There's just
it's a clown show in New York right now.
You just have 2 studs. I can't say
that enough.
You have 2 studs on this team,
and you do this.
Yeah, it feels like they're going, all right, we're going to hire all these guys to have the 101 next season and have that quarterback go back to school because they don't want to play for the New York Jets. Like that's essentially
we're going to burn another hole in our pocket for another year on these studs, and we're not even going to try. We are not a serious franchise, is what this tells me.
I don't know. I hope Geno bounces back. It's just what I saw last season was so bad from Geno, and I understand their offensive line was so terrible. They had no weapons. I get it. I just don't think it gets better in New York. So yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, any sort of optimism to sprinkle in here, Ty? Because I have nothing outside of just like the only thing that's going to fix the Jets franchise culturally, whatever it may be, is just you got to kick Woody Johnson to the curb, man. I know it's not that simple.
I gave it a C because I'm just like, I don't know what else the Jets were supposed to do. Like, yes, you could have made the play for Kyler Murray. For all this,
can you at least show me again? I have more grace for the Arizona Cardinals because I'm sure they were in play for Malik Willis. Say, okay, well, bummer, you missed. That's fine. You at least tried. This tells me the Jets aren't trying. Carson Wentz is going to be the backup. That's Frank Reich's preferred option.
Isn't
preferred option for what? Oh, preferred option only win 2 games? To tell the franchise 2026 is in the garbage already?
Fields is still technically the backup, which, like,
if they're keeping him around, sure.
Again, the point that I'm making is you only had 2 quarterbacks that you could have gone after. And it was Geno and Kyler. And I just think they got the intel that they weren't in on the Kyler sweepstakes, or that Kyler didn't rate them, didn't like their situation, whatever it was. So their only other option to have a starting quarterback under center for their team this year was a Geno Smith. They were not going to be in play for Aaron Rodgers because what kind of like what kind of Twilight Zone like scenario would that be that Rodgers would go back to the Jets? Russell Wilson's stock is so far, 30 feet beneath the surface. Like no team trusts Russell Wilson to be their starter anymore. Sure, you could have taken a chance maybe on Jimmy G, on Joe Flacco, maybe.
I just want to see some effort of this franchise trying.
No, they want the number 1 pick. They want a reason to fire Aaron Glenn. Woody Johnson just wants to reset again for the 100th time in a row and hope that it works out better this time.
Yeah. I don't really, I mean, when I say I don't like it, it just doesn't get me excited, but I don't think this move was supposed to. I don't know. I think the only move that could have gotten you excited for the Jets was Kyler Murray. And I don't think he was going there. I don't think Kyler was ever going to go to the Jets.
I'm glad you're willing to have a little bit more grace than Cam and I. We probably need it because we could have easily just ended off on the Jets are a joke of a franchise. Have a great night. Tune in next week.
See ya.
We'll be back later this week, though. We're going to cover the NFC, and oh my gosh, I hope free agency calms down here a little bit so we're not scrambling to try and figure out who's going where and who's backing out of what trades and how is that impacting the salary cap for specific teams. And my goodness, thankfully the NFC we were able to get through at 9:33 p.m. on a Tuesday evening Central Time. If you want to make sure you catch that NFC video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell as well, so you're notified as soon as that drops later this week. If you want more exclusive content for us, we've been doing some free agency coverage. FFL is over on Twitter. The FFL is over on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. If you're a YouTube person through and through, totally understand that. We respect your dedication to the red play button app. Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts on YouTube. You can follow our personal socials as well. I am at Lucas Wenzel on X. Camlaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath for Ty. We'll see you in a few days here. I think hopefully free agency will kind of cool down by the time we record, and you all listen in on Friday when we recap the NFC and grade out those signings for fantasy football. We'll see all that. Deuces.